Hey everybody, excited to be here with you on today's Mindset and Motivation Monday. Every single week I try to record a show for you, myself as well, as a little bit of inspiration to start our week, because no matter what our goals are, no matter what we've accomplished in the past, every week is a brand new week. And it is something that we need to essentially tackle, that we need to go after, because what I've found is that life doesn't necessarily come to you all the time. Now, it would be nice, it'd be great, right? If we wished for something and then it automatically came to us. Now, sometimes those things do happen. I'm not saying that we don't attract into our life that which we want, we feel very strongly about. But what I have found more times than not is that you visualize, you believe, you dream, you pray, you wish, you put it out there into the world, but then you also work for. And I read this great quote the other day that was this, and I wanted to share it with you because the first thing I thought about when I read this quote is we need to share this as part of a Mindset and Motivation Monday. So here goes. Forgive yourself for the choices you made when you didn't know you had better options. Focus on growing and moving on. And I love that because so many of us have given up on our hopes and our dreams and our biggest aspirations in life only because we've tried before in the past. We've tried all sorts of different things, different jobs, different relationships, takes on spirituality, trying to get healthy, transform our body, and it hasn't worked. So we beat ourselves up saying, well, I guess I'm not that person who's going to get to that goal weight or goal health or goal relationship or whatever it might be, right? To be able to create the career that you've always dreamed about. But the thing is, in the past, you didn't necessarily know all the options you have now. You certainly didn't have all the knowledge that you currently have today. So what I recommend is this, is starting to look at life in a whole different light. And just in general, like a general philosophy that you can't beat yourself up about previous decisions you made a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or honestly, even last month. There are things that I learned in a day that transform my way of thinking that I may have made different decisions in the past. And that's the truth. But honestly, it's not a bad thing. Hopefully, we're all like that. We're open to new data. We're open to new experiences. So just like you can't beat yourself up for not knowing what you didn't know, you also can't get stuck in this present moment through what's called and referred to as paralysis by analysis. And this might be an even more important point because some of the smartest people I know oftentimes don't reach their greatest potential simply because they analyze every different scenario of what may happen. If you tuned into last week's show, we actually talked about people who live in the past, what happens mentally, people who live in the future. Well, those people are living in the future. It's the what ifs. Well, what if this happens, or this happens, or that happens? And you start to think about all the negatives that may happen instead of the one positive, which ultimately will happen as we move through this process. And that's achieving your goal. But a paralysis by analysis stops you from oftentimes even getting started. And the problem with not getting started is that you don't get to learn all of the lessons that life has waiting for you. Because the truth is this, no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how smart you are, you can't know it all before you get started. I talk about that with my teams all the time. We just have to put our best work out into the world because we don't know the questions that our community will ultimately have. Even if we do focus groups, we do all sorts of different things. We won't know the type of technology that they're really looking for. We won't know the ease of use, the customer experience, all of those things until we get it out there into the world. So will it be our best work? Well, at that moment, yes, it is, based on the current information that we have. But can it get better? Absolutely. How can it get better? Only with feedback. Feedback from the world, actually taking those first steps, feedback from others. And it's the same for you, whatever your goal may be. So let's say you're trying to improve your relationship. There will be conversations you have that will go horribly wrong, I'm sure. They won't be all that great. Now, that may scare you. Say, well, that doesn't make me want to move forward and have those hard conversations. The thing is this. It's going to, no matter what, even if the conversation isn't exactly the way that you want it to be, it's going to allow for new depths in your relationship. It's going to allow you to explore new topics, ones that you wouldn't go to without that. And then it's going to give you the ability to say, oh, based on how that conversation went, I'm going to approach it this way. or I'm going to approach this topic in a maybe a gentler way or from a different angle, because this is how that person would appreciate me bringing this up. And again, you don't know. Even with the best of intentions, you're not going to know. Same with getting your health back. I mean, it's not like I didn't try to get well from ages 17 years old to 26 years old. I tried. I saw about 100 different practitioners. I saw about 2 dozen different conventional medicine doctors and specialists. They wanted to run all sorts of blood work, do CAT scans, all sorts of things. And ultimately, they couldn't figure out what it was. So they said it was either all in my head, or I would have to get sick, and then they would find it on blood work. And then, of course, I would be able to then be put on a handful of medications. Now, unfortunately, that is what happened, right? They said, oh, you have Addisons disease, you have rheumatoid arthritis, you have type 2 diabetes, you have allergies, you have mast cell activation syndrome, all these things. And I got put on all these medications. Ultimately, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to live a life taking a handful of pharmaceutical drugs every day in my 20s. So what did I do? I sought out natural health practitioners. Now, in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was kind of new. But I tried all different protocols. I tried all sorts of different things, literally over 50 other different and dozens of other natural health protocols. Some worked, right? Some didn't. Ultimately, nothing stuck. I would relapse and I would get better. I would relapse. Much of this was my fault. I didn't get it. I would try different practitioners' things at different times, and I was doing my best. That's what I thought was best at the time. Turns out it wasn't. But how did I know? Only by moving through this process. Then I meet my mentor, Dr. Pete, almost 27 years old. I meet her the fall before turning 27, and I said, here's what's going on. I'm an absolute mess. I've tried this, I've tried that. I was talking 100 miles an hour like I typically do. And she just had a smile on her face because she got it. She got it. You don't need to do more. Ultimately, you need to do less, but you need to do the right things. That is what got me to really create, ultimately, and in the future, the lab testing, the whole de-stress protocol I created. Because I was overcomplicating things. But you always overcomplicate things when you don't have all the answers in front of you, because you're trying to do too much. But when you know the critical few things to do, which is Pareto's principle, you ultimately get the results you're seeking. But that only comes through wisdom and knowledge, which only comes through experience. So Pareto's principle literally says that the 20% of things that you do garners you 80% of the results. And then if you get that 80% of the results, then you can fine tune it even more, because the next 20% gets you another 80% of the results. So you start to fine tune and fine tune and fine tune. That is what really the secrets lie. But how do you know that? Well, I wouldn't have met the Dr. Pete until I'd been through the 80 to 100 other practitioners and been working on it for 9.5 years, right? Met her, got well in 6 months. Again, getting well doesn't happen overnight. Not when you have autoimmune issues and you've got all sorts of real diagnosed diseases. But the nice thing is you start to feel better within a few weeks. Another month later, start to feel even better, a little bit better. In 6 months, most people are fully healed. They really are. The worst of the worst cases, 8 to 12 months maximum. That's the truth. So don't let anybody else tell you separately or differently at all. The way that we get that to the wellness-based goal, which is what I do, what I specialize in, but it's the same for weight loss, body transformation. I did that from 18 years old through essentially 27, 28 years old. And so I really went all in on integrative health. So the thing is this, everything gets simpler as you get more experienced. You have more wisdom. You have more, well, here's the truth. You actually have made more mistakes. That's what nobody likes to share with you, because the truth is that nobody wants to make mistakes. They want to have the hard conversations. They don't want to go through the trial and error. They want someone to say, do this, then do this, then do this. And truthfully, yeah, that is what you want. And you should seek that out through books, very frequently on just one podcast, but through longer form books or a course or certification or working one-on-one with a coach. You'll definitely get that. But you still need to make some of those mistakes on your own, because you don't have the mentor to guide you step by step in your life through the process. So no matter what, no matter who you work with, honestly, they probably have a lot of the answers, but you still need to implement, and you're still human, which means you will make mistakes. So what I like to share with people now is, listen, you're going to make mistakes, and that should actually be coveted. You want that. The faster you fail, which is like the worst, right? That's the worst word in the human language is fail, because we always try to avoid that. But I say the faster you fail, the faster you figure out how to make it. Because there are only so many ways to do things incorrectly, right? So I pretty much blasted through all the things that you could do incorrectly, and it was a lot. I did a lot of things incorrectly on the way to getting well. But then I knew that when my mentor shared with me what to do, it did make sense. It made sense on every level, and then I had to have trust. I had to trust the process. Now, was it a straight line to getting well over those 6 months with Dr. Pete? No, it wasn't, right? It wasn't, because nothing ever is. But when I realized that I am probably the one holding me back from my ultimate success and potential, that was a little bit of a tough pill, no pun intended, to swallow. I had to accept that me, perfectionist, stressed out individual, was causing a lot of these relapses. It was causing me to dive too deep into something that didn't need that. And so what I like to say is this, is that you need to be confident enough just to know that you're going to move forward, you're not going to be perfect, and you're going to make mistakes. Why is this so hard for most people, myself included previously? It's because the ego inside of us doesn't want to look bad. That's it. So when we go for the next career or relationship, spirituality, health, or body transformation, and we put it out into the world and we so-called fail, it's a bruise on the ego. But if we begin to shift this and actually say, no, it is one step closer to figuring out the right way. It's one more lesson learned on the way to becoming successful. I truly believe that it is impossible to fail if you don't give up. I really do believe that. Because if you have a whiteboard in front of you and say, okay, that was the first way, that didn't work. Now, here's the only way you really can fail. One, yes, you give up. But number two, you keep repeating your mistakes. That's what I did for 9.5 years. That was my fault. That was on me. I didn't think about all the different ways that it could be successful, because honestly, I didn't know them, but I still didn't write them down. And I ended up repeating them over and over and over. I just repeated them over and over and over with different practitioners in the same way. And what I should have done was this, say, okay, try this for nutrition, but as its own variable. How did that work? Oh, starting to feel a little bit better. Great. And then only add one more thing in, one more thing in, one more thing in, so that I would know, is this moving me closer? Yes or no? And if it's a no, that's okay, but write it down, cross it off. And why I think it did not work. Here's the reasons why. Okay, now I'm learning from it, right? And if you do that, as I said before, and you search out enough courses and certifications and mentors and coaches and just confidants, whatever you can do, you're ultimately going to get there. So when we step back and we say, have we reached our goals? Yes or no? Probably most of us are going to say no. And that's the truth. The truth is that we always strive for more. That's part of being a human being. There's literally nothing wrong with that as long as you maintain it as a growth mindset, meaning that you don't want to outdo anybody else, but simply get better for you, becoming the best version of you, reaching your highest potential. And I think that that's a big part of life. It's not to stay static. It's to grow. It's to learn more. And then, as I believe, share it with others. So as you learn and you get better, share. We call it paying it forward. Paying it forward just means that I figured this out. I may not have all the answers, but this I do know. Who can I help? And as you help, as you pay that forward, you actually learn more, because you learn more by teaching. Yes, by doing, because that teaches you what to do, what not to do, but by teaching, it reinforces you to get clear on that topic. So what I want to share with you right now is that it is impossible for you to achieve more without moving forward boldly, understanding and knowing you will make mistakes. But as those mistakes come up, you will journal them, you'll write them down, and know that you learned one more lesson on your way to ultimate success. Because those who do not give up cannot fail. Hopefully this message was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Mindset and Motivation Monday. I thank you. I appreciate you being a part of this community. And as always, do share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.